The rusty chain biker bar throbbed with noise, laughter, rock riffs, the metallic rattle of pool balls, until the heavy doors slammed open and a small shape stumbled inside. 7-year-old Emma Martinez, barefoot and wide-eyed, froze under the glare of neon and smoke. Her voice cracked the room like lightning. "They're hurting my mama." Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. Cigarettes stilled midair. 20 men in leather looked up. At the center sat Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez, a wall of muscle and scars. The town of Millbrook whispered his name with fear. But when he saw that trembling girl, something ancient moved behind his eyes, a memory of his own mother's screams decades ago. Tank rose slowly, the floorboards groaning under his boots. He knelt so his 6'4" frame met Emma's tiny world. "Who's hurting your mama, sweetheart?" he asked softly. "My stepdad," she sobbed. "He's gonna kill her." The jukebox crackled, forgotten. Tank reached for his keys. "Then we ride." Outside, the air vibrated as 20 Harleys roared to life. The noise rolled through Millbrook like a storm warning, rattling window panes and waking half the town. Emma clung to Tank's vest, her face pressed against the leather patch stitched with red wings and skulls. "Hold on tight," he told her. "We'll find her." Behind him, his crew fell into formation. Diesel, Cobra, Hammer, Spider, each name a story, each man a scar walking. To outsiders, they looked like outlaws. To each other, they were soldiers of the road. Headlights cut through the dark streets as the convoy thundered toward Maple Avenue. Tank's mind replayed the girl's voice again and again. He'd fought wars in jungles and deserts, but nothing made his pulse surge like a child's cry for help. As they turned onto the quiet neighborhood street, porch lights flicked on, curtains twitched, dogs barked. Millbrook had never seen justice coming on 2 wheels before tonight. Tank killed the engine outside a small blue duplex with a busted fence. The house was alive with chaos, shouting, crashing glass, the sound of a woman begging. Diesel, Cobra, back door. "Hammer perimeter," Tank ordered. His men moved like ghosts, disciplined from years of brotherhood forged in sand and blood. Through the window, Tank saw the man, tall, stringy, drunk, his arm raised above a cowering woman. Tank's jaw flexed. He didn't knock. One kick and the door exploded inward. The room froze. Maria Martinez lay on the floor, blood at her lip. Her abuser, Jake Sullivan, turned, bottle raised. "Who the hell?" he started. But Tank was already there, his hand around Jake's wrist before the glass ever fell. The bottle shattered harmlessly against the wall. "You like hitting women?" Tank's voice was calm, almost gentle. "Try someone who hits back." The fight was brutal and fast. Jake swung wild, drunk fury giving him strength but no control. Tank moved like a trained storm. A block, a hook, a knee to the ribs. In 10 seconds it was over. Jake lay gasping on the carpet, arm twisted behind his back, Tank's knee pressing him into the stained rug. Maria crawled backward, dazed, eyes wide with disbelief. "Who are you people?" "The ones who showed up," Tank said. Outside, the rhythmic rumble of Harleys idled steady, the sound of loyalty waiting. Diesel stepped in, checking Maria's injuries with the gentle hands of a former combat medic. "She's gonna need stitches," he murmured. Cobra peeked through the curtain. "Cops on their way." "Good," Tank said, releasing Jake and hauling him upright like a sack of regret. "You're done, boy. This woman and her kid don't answer to you ever again." Jake spat blood. "You think you're a hero?" "No," Tank said quietly. "Just the reckoning." Red and blue lights painted the street as Officer Martinez, no relation, arrived, hand hovering over his holster. The sight inside the house stopped him cold. A bruised woman, a restrained man, and a room full of bikers standing silently like courtroom statues. Tank stepped forward, palms open. Suspect is Jake Sullivan. Violation of restraining order, assault and battery. Victim needs medical care. The officer blinked. You law enforcement? Not anymore, Tank said. Just a citizen who listened when a kid cried for help. Outside, Emma ran from Hammer's arms and threw herself at her mother. Maria clutched her tight, sobbing. Neighbors watched from their porches as paramedics arrived, whispers rippling through Millbrook. For years, they'd feared the hellsangels patch. Tonight they saw what it really meant. Not lawlessness, but protection. Tank lit a cigarette with shaking hands, watching Emma cling to her mother. He'd seen war, seen death, but nothing like that moment when terror turned into relief. Ride easy, he told his men. We did good tonight. The following morning, sunlight spilled through the broken frame of Maria's door like quiet mercy. The police tape fluttered in the breeze, a pale reminder of the chaos that had raged just hours before. Maria sat on her couch, bandaged and silent as Emma dozed beside her. Tank stood near the doorway, arms crossed, watching a town wake up to a new kind of rumor. The hellsangels had saved someone. Diesel entered carrying coffee and pastries. Cops cleared the scene, he said. Jake's in county lockup. They're charging him with violation and assault. Tank nodded but didn't smile. He'd seen men like Jake before. They didn't stop just because someone said, "You're under arrest." Maria looked up, voice barely above a whisper. "Why'd you help us?" Tank shrugged. "Because once nobody helped me." For the first time since childhood, she believed a stranger's words could feel like armor. Outside, engines hummed softly, waiting, their presence more reassuring than any badge. By afternoon, word had spread across Millbrook faster than wildfire through dry brush. Folks who'd spent years crossing the street when they saw the angels now peeked from behind curtains, whispering, "Those bikers saved that woman and her kid." Some called it vigilante justice. Others called it redemption. Tank called it Tuesday. He sat at the Rusty Chain, the same bar where it all started, staring into his untouched beer. Diesel joined him, elbows resting on the scarred wood. "Town's buzzing," Diesel said. People dropping off thank-you cards. Some lady even brought pie. Tank smirked faintly. "Pie don't fix fear." Diesel tilted his head. "Maybe not, but it's a start." Cobra approached, newspaper in hand. The front page headline screamed, "Biker Brotherhood saves local family." Underneath, a blurry photo showed Tank carrying Emma to safety. "You made the news, boss," Cobra said. Tank stared at the picture, then folded the paper carefully. "That little girl's the story, not me." He didn't ride for fame. He rode because he couldn't stand silence when someone was screaming. That evening, Tank knocked gently on Maria's repaired door. She looked tired but radiant, wearing the soft look of a woman learning how to breathe again. "I didn't expect you back," she said. "I don't do goodbyes twice," Tank replied. Emma appeared, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "You came back?" Tank smiled. "Told you I would." He crouched to her level. "You keeping your mama safe?" Emma nodded solemnly. "We locked the doors and everything." Tank laughed, a rare, gravel-deep sound that made Maria's chest loosen. He handed her a folded business card. "If Jake ever tries again, you call this number. Doesn't matter what time." She took it with shaking fingers. "You think he will?" "I think he's a coward, and cowards don't quit till someone stands taller." Emma tugged his vest. "You're really big. Does that mean you're brave?" Tank looked at Maria before answering. "No, little one. Brave means doing what's right even when you're small." Maria's eyes glistened. "Then you made us brave too." The next few days brought change. Neither the bikers nor the town saw coming. Locals began stopping by the Rusty Chain, not to complain, but to say thank you. Truckers bought rounds for the angels. Shop owners offered discounts. Even the pastor left a note. Good men wear leather too. Tank's brothers were half amused, half stunned. Hammer grinned as he tuned his bike. You realize we're basically the town's guardian angels now? Tank lit a cigarette. Careful, Halo won't fit over that thick head of yours. Still, something in his chest felt different, lighter. Redemption wasn't a word he trusted, but maybe, just maybe, it was real. That night, Diesel rolled up with news. Jake's lawyer filed for bail. Tank exhaled smoke through his nose. And? Denied. Judge said flight risk and violent tendencies. Tank nodded slowly. Good. But deep down, a familiar unease crawled beneath his skin. He knew men like Jake didn't fade quietly. Trouble was patient. Trouble learned to wait. Friday evening brought a peace Millbrook hadn't felt in years. The rusty chain was alive again, guitars strumming, laughter spilling into the street. Maria arrived quietly, holding a foil-covered dish. For the guys, she said shyly. Emma insisted. Tank lifted the lid. Lasagna? Her favorite, Maria said. Ours too, Diesel muttered, already reaching for a plate. As the music swelled, Maria sat beside Tank, watching Emma dance between pool tables under the neon glow. You ever wish life turned out different? She asked. Tank looked around the bar, his brothers laughing, a little girl free from fear, a town starting to trust again. Sometimes, he said, but if it had, maybe I wouldn't have been here when she ran in. Maria smiled softly. Then I guess fate rides a Harley. Tank chuckled. Nah, fate rides shotgun. Outside the engines idled low, like sentinels guarding the night. And for the first time in decades, Tank felt something close to peace. But peace never lasts forever. 2 weeks passed, but peace was a fragile visitor. Maria's bruises had faded, though the fear behind her smile hadn't. Tank had been checking in daily, quietly, never overstaying. To him, protection wasn't charity, it was duty. That night, as he left her porch, he noticed a car idling down the street, old sedan, lights off. A silhouette behind the wheel, watching. He walked halfway toward it before the engine revved and disappeared into the dark. His gut tightened. The kind of tension you don't learn from gossip, only from war. The next morning, Tank sat at the bar with Diesel. He's out there, he said flatly. Diesel didn't ask who. He knew. Jake? Bail or no bail, men like that don't quit. Diesel nodded slowly. Then we don't either. Tank looked out the window at the town he'd accidentally learned to care about. He'd spent decades running from his demons. Now he was guarding someone else's. It felt strange and right. The kind of right that comes with a cost. That evening, Millbrook's calm shattered. A rock smashed through Maria's front window, landing with a heavy thud. Around the brick was a note scrawled in jagged handwriting. You think you're safe? Think again. Emma screamed, clutching her mother's leg. Tank arrived within minutes. He'd been patrolling nearby. His boots crunched on glass as he picked up the brick, reading the threat in silence. Maria's hands shook. He's back, isn't he? Tank nodded grimly. Cowards send warnings before they act. Means he's planning something. Diesel and Cobra appeared at the door, drawn by the commotion. You want us to find him? Cobra asked. No, Tank said, eyes hard. We find proof first. Then we make sure the law doesn't have a choice. Maria touched his arm. I can't live like this again. He met her gaze, steady and certain. You won't. He wants a war. He'll get one. Just not the kind he expects. Outside, the bikes idled low, a promise in chrome and gasoline. The next day, Tank walked into the sheriff's office, leather vest gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Chief Williams looked up, eyebrows raised. "Rodriguez, you planning to start trouble or stop it?" "Depends who you ask," Tank replied. He placed the note and brick on the desk. "Jake Sullivan's behind this. He's escalating." Williams studied the items, jaw tightening. "You've got witnesses?" "Half my crew heard the window break. You know what this is? Intimidation." Williams sighed, rubbing his temples. "We're watching him, but he's careful. Keeps just inside the line." Tank leaned forward, voice low. "Then move the line?" The chief met his stare. "I can't let you and your boys take justice into your own hands." Tank's tone softened. "We're not looking for vengeance, just peace for her kid." Williams hesitated, then nodded. "I'll authorize a protective detail, but if he slips up, I want you to call me first." Tank nodded. "You'll get that call, if he gets the chance." That night, Maria couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt like a footstep, every gust of wind a hand at the window. Emma slept beside her, clutching her stuffed rabbit, unaware of the storm gathering outside. Maria rose, walked to the kitchen, and found Tank sitting on the back porch, shotgun across his knees, cigarette burning low. "You're still here," she whispered. He nodded. "You don't leave the fort unguarded before dawn." "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "Yeah, I do." He took a drag, eyes fixed on the tree line. "When I was 10, I ran to a neighbor's house when my mum screamed. Nobody came. Not one soul. Been trying to make that right ever since." Maria's throat tightened. "You already did." Tank turned to her then, a rare moment of vulnerability flickering behind the steel. "I just hope I didn't wait too long to do something good." The first bird call broke the silence, dawn creeping up on a town that didn't yet know what was coming. Morning light cut through fog like a blade. Diesel rolled up fast, gravel spitting from his tires. "We got a problem," he said before even dismounting. "One of our guys saw Jake talking with out-of-towners near the old rail yard, rough-looking types." Tank's jaw clenched. "He's recruiting." "Yeah, and they're not the kind that fight clean." Tank looked toward Maria's house, down the block where Emma waved from the window, smiling, innocent, unknowing. He exhaled slowly. "Then we get ahead of it." Within an hour, the hellsangels were gathered at the rusty chain. The easy laughter was gone. Maps covered the table, weapons cleaned and checked, radios tested. "This ain't about revenge," Tank said, voice carrying weight. "It's about making sure a mother and her kid get to wake up tomorrow." Diesel cracked his knuckles. "What if Jake makes the first move?" Tank's expression hardened. "Then God help him." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, not from the sky, but from engines waiting to ride. The abandoned rail yard on the outskirts of Millbrook was a skeleton of rust and echoes. Sunlight broke through shattered windows, cutting stripes across the concrete. Tank stood at the edge of the lot, his crew behind him, engines idling like growling animals waiting to be unleashed. He'd been in ambushes before, Iraq, Panama, border raids, but this one carried more weight than any uniformed mission. Diesel's voice crackled through the radio. "Targets inbound! 3 vehicles!" Tank nodded once. Positions. He wasn't hunting Jake out of hatred anymore. This was about finality, about closing a chapter that had bled too long. Minutes later, Jake's pickup screeched to a stop beside an old warehouse. Two men stepped out first, tattoos crawling up their necks, hands on weapons. Then Jake emerged, thinner, wilder. "Told you he'd come," Jake said, smirking at the emptiness. "He's too proud not to." Tank stepped into view. "You're right about that," he said, voice steady as a trigger pull. The standoff unfolded like an old western, silence thick enough to hear heartbeats. The two hired men flanked Jake, guns half raised. Tank's brothers fanned out behind him, forming a wide arc of leather and resolve. Jake laughed, a sound cracked by booze and bitterness. "You think you can scare me with your charity club? You're all ghosts in leather." Tank took a step forward. "You threatened a kid, Jake. That makes you less than nothing." Jake's grin faltered. "She's my family." "No," Tank said. "She's ours now." The first gunshot tore the silence apart. One of Jake's men fired wild, missing by inches. Diesel's bike revved, charging forward as Cobra tackled the shooter to the ground. Chaos erupted, fists, boots, brass knuckles. The second thug swung a tire iron. Tank caught it mid-air and disarmed him with one brutal twist. Jake stumbled back, eyes darting, reaching for his revolver, but Tank was faster. He closed the distance, hand around Jake's throat, pressing him against the rusted rail car. "This ends now," he growled. "Go ahead," Jake spat. "You'll just prove what everyone says you are." Tank's fist hovered. Trembling, the line between justice and revenge razor-thin. Police sirens wailed in the distance, Chief Williams' units responding to Diesel's earlier call. Tank released Jake with a shove that sent him sprawling. "You wanted a war, Jake," he said, chest heaving. "But wars end one way, with the truth." Williams and his deputies poured into the yard, weapons drawn. "Everyone down, now!" Tank raised his hands, stepping back as his brothers followed suit. "Weapons secured, Chief. We called you." Jake, shaking and bruised, screamed, "They ambushed me!" "Look what they did." Williams knelt, picking up the revolver that had slipped from Jake's hand. "Looks like you brought your own war," he said coolly. "And I've got 3 witnesses and a recording that says you threatened a child." Jake's defiance cracked. "You can't prove—" "We can," Williams interrupted. "Your new friends. They're talking already." Maria appeared at the edge of the lot, escorted by an officer. Her eyes met Tank's, fear, relief, gratitude, all in one glance. For the first time, she believed the nightmare was truly ending. Jake screamed her name, but Maria didn't look back. By sunset, the yard was quiet again. Jake was gone, cuffed, booked, and headed for a cell he wouldn't leave for decades. The angels stood together in the cooling air, watching the police lights fade. Diesel broke the silence first. "Guess we're heroes again, huh?" Tank smiled faintly. "Nah, just men who didn't look away." He walked toward Maria, who waited near her car. Emma clung to her mother's leg, a mix of awe and relief shining in her eyes. "Is it over?" she asked. Tank knelt beside her. "It's over, sweetheart. You and your mama are safe now." Emma wrapped her arms around his neck. "You came back just like you promised." "Always," Tank said softly. He looked up at Maria, whose smile carried the kind of warmth that makes broken men remember they still have hearts. She reached out, touching his hand. "You could have killed him." "I almost did," Tank admitted. "But then I realized, if I became him, I couldn't protect anyone." For the first time in years, Maria's laughter came without pain. Weeks later, Millbrook held its first-ever community ride for hope. The streets filled with motorcycles, flags fluttering, children waving from sidewalks. The hellsangels led the parade, no longer feared but celebrated. Tank rode point, Emma on a small custom bike Diesel had built just for her, helmet glittering pink beneath the sun. As they passed the courthouse, Maria stood with Chief Williams, pride glowing in her eyes. The town that once whispered now cheered. Tank pulled up beside the rusty chain, engines idling as the crowd gathered. He removed his helmet, gaze sweeping across the people who'd once called him a criminal. "We don't ride for glory," he said through the mic. "We ride for the ones who can't. For every voice that was scared to speak, we hear you." The crowd erupted. Emma climbed onto a chair and shouted, "Tank's my hero!" Laughter and tears blurred together. Diesel raised his fist. "Ride forever!" Tank looked at Maria, then at the road stretching west. "Yeah," he whispered, smiling. "Ride forever." The engines thundered again, not as noise but as heartbeat. Freedom, family, redemption, all written in exhaust and sunlight. If this story hit you deep, if you've ever seen strength rise from scars, then you ride with us now. The angels don't chase fame. They chase justice. Subscribe, hit that bell, and join the road. Because every mile carries another story worth telling.